Hey, awesome, Brenda. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sir, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. And sir, team, really fantastic forum today. Highlighting everything that H2F continues to do across the spectrum. The momentum that it continues to build, particularly in the nutrition space. You can go ahead and push forward to the next slide. From an Army perspective, it's really an exciting time to be a part of the Army food program. We have Army senior leaders that are prioritizing, putting a focus, funding, resourcing, the whole operationalizing and the modernization of the Army food program. So we heard from Colonel Kent earlier on the campus style dining and the Warrior Restaurant Center approach. And really that has the potential to revolutionize installation feeding. But that's actually part of a larger Army food program strategy. And as part of that strategy, we must continue to do all the things that we promised the force that we're going to do, that we've begun to roll out and that we have planned to roll out, both on the installation side and the tactical side, as we continue to transform into that, food service of the future. And so I'll highlight a couple of those on the installation side. Major Gordon hit a few of them, and I think that's it's really good to see the operational force seeing what's being put out there. And so on the installation side, we've really started rolling out kiosks, bistros, Army food trucks, meal prep plans. All of those are extending the additional hours to provide flexible feeding options, which is really good for our soldier that, as Colonel Kent was saying, the Gen Z soldier that really eats at their own time. And so to have the opportunity to get some additional feeding times is really pertinent. And as Major Gordon was saying, the partnership with DECA is really providing us with additional, name brand items, healthy food options, fresh foods that soldiers can use their meal entitlement on and go and get those items. So those are really big key things for us. One of the things that the Sergeant Major of the Army has been focused on is the implementation of the credit card and the debit card machines in the dining facilities. We've had some internet and some kind of IT infrastructure issues, but as we work through those, that'll be proliferated across the force, improving the headcount and enabling dining facility managers to better provide for the soldiers with increased options for menus. Additionally, as we move forward, we've got to really look at some of those installations that aren't really robust food ecosystems. So if you think about some of those overseas locations, even one like Fort Story, really providing those kiosks and those bistro options so that we can really build a food ecosystem and a nutritional environment for the soldiers, even though those that aren't on the Fort Braggs and the Fort Drums. A couple of policy wins we've had, the automatic calculation of the BDFA, that's huge because it aligns with the USDA market and it really reduces and eliminates the supplemental requirements for the conventional force. And then we've talked about the Go for Green action menus. But what's really, I think, important to note on that is from the basic training through AIT and then out to the operational force, that soldier learns how to navigate a healthy food option. So those are there, they understand it, they're trained, and then when they get out to the operational force, they can actually operationalize that menu and get the best nutritional value. On the other side, we have to really modernize and continue to modernize the tactical food service. So really two things that are kind of groundbreaking. One is we've on the individual combat ration, or MRE as we normally call it. We've already rolled out the vegetarian option and then also a halal menu option, and then just got done finished testing a vegan ICR, and that will allow anybody with a plant-based lifestyle or dietary requirement to get after that individual combat ration and have an MRE. On the operational ration, this is really a press for the Army, is to get those UGREs and those close combat assault rations out to the operational force, hopefully within the next two FYs. But what really that really does is in the fight of the future, when we will risk having minimal cold storage and a lack of access to those fresh fruits and vegetables. Getting those operational rations out allows flexibility, variety, and an increased nutritional value to mitigate some of those gaps. So we've got to continue to do those at the Army level and field it, fund it, and I think we have the support from Army senior leaders to do so. So that leads into, Brenda, if you could flip to the next slide, to the overarching strategy. And Colonel Kent kind of alluded to it during his presentation, but I'll hit on kind of what the strategy is and what does it look like in the future. So a couple of things. One, it's a little bit pre-decisional. We go back to the Secretary of the Army through General Daly at AMC in January to get this strategy and implementation plan approved. But really, the vision is grounded in all of the H2F principles. It takes the soldier from the installation all the way out to the point of need and gives that soldier a nutritional option throughout the duration. Additionally, it adds in the families and brings an ecosystem to the installation so that soldiers and families, while they're at home station, can enjoy the perks and enjoy the installation. How does it do it? So we've got a number of lines of effort. We're not going to go through them all. I know we're short on time, but really the intent is to integrate all of the food ecosystem stakeholders to include AAFES and to include DECA and everybody on installation and out in the field to come together and cross-pollinate and synchronize across the lines of effort so that we can, one, we can propel AFIT and their initiative is get accelerated success there, as you can see there for line of effort number 3, and also continue those ongoing efforts that we talked about in the first slide. But really, it gives the entitlement back to the soldier, for one. So we get soldiers eating healthy and we get soldiers using their entitlement in a dining facility or in a warrior restaurant of their choosing. And there should be multiple of them as the strategy and the implementation plan proceeds. But it also gives back to the installation commanders and the leaders, their senior leaders, the option to provide for their community. Not every community is going to want the same type of option. So Fort Drum may be different than Fort Bragg, may be different than overseas, but giving those commanders the resources and the tools, the funding to be able to provide for their community, both soldiers and families. And really, overall, that makes a dominant food ecosystem on the installation. And that gets soldiers, we mentioned it both there. I think there was something in the chat, a question about how do we get soldiers away from DoorDash? This is how we get soldiers away from DoorDash of unhealthy options, by giving commanders resources, giving units, giving soldiers options, and making the installation a dynamic and food option of choice. The other side of that coin, though, is this really puts 92 Golfs back doing their wartime mission. It takes them out of the dining facilities that they're currently in. It trains them on food preparation, on cooking tactics, seasoning, running a dining facility, maintaining their equipment. So when they deploy forward, whether that be for an exercise training or that have to go to conflict or combat, they're able to sustain the force for a duration, whether that be field feeding or running a subsistence operation in a steady state overseas environment. So this is pretty groundbreaking. But I think the important thing to highlight is there is a lot of focus from the Army senior leaders in resourcing this strategy, funding it, and enabling it to come to fruition. And so I appreciate Colonel Kent's presentation before. It's well nested within the Army program strategy, and then some of the other presenters that are really operationalizing this at the tactical level. So Brenda, obviously, if there's any questions, we've got the team from the Joint Culinary Center of Excellence online, Colonel Page, Chief Manning, and their team, willing to answer any specific questions, but just really wanted to give a quick rundown. I know I'm backing up against so that's it from my end, Brenda. And sir, again, thanks for the opportunity.
Colonel Wyatt, thanks so much. You know, we really appreciate you and your team sticking and moving to get this presentation out for our deep dive. This is really great information and all right, you know, hot off the press, and for all the work that you and your team are doing, sir. So appreciative. If you have some folks on your team, maybe if you have someone who had a comment or two to add, we've got just a tidbit of time. If not, we'll pause here for any questions coming through on the chat or hands raised for just a few seconds. Over.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Anybody from JCO want to highlight anything else? Okay, thanks, Brenda. Sir, again, appreciate all the efforts here.
Hey, thanks, Scott. You know, there's a lot of us that are talking about where we need to go in the Army, and then there are some that are frankly just moving out. And that's not a criticism to anybody out there, but that is kudos for you and the logistical team out there, all underneath, you know, at the Sustainment Center of Excellence, and then General Daly and his team. You guys have put together a strategy, and it's going to make a big difference. So appreciate what you all are doing.